Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Spanning the Need. I am your host, Anthony Spano. Tonight, we're going to talk about sports, and with YSN, the founder and CEO of YSN Live, DJ Yokley. DJ, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well, Tone. How are you?
I'm good. And actually, it's funny we talk about sports as sports has been a roller coaster ride the last probably 7 to 8 months.
Yeah, it's been a tap dance, just to put it lightly. It's been it went from all things were go for spring sports, and then they shut it off obviously for Corona, and then that's really when it caught people's attention. Sports has been huge in the valley. It's been huge in the country, and if you don't believe that, if you think about what the first thing that came back into the limelight whenever we thought we had a little bit of a handle on Corona, it was sports because we can't live without it. So that's kind of what we build our business around is people in the Mahoning Valley and here locally, regionally, and nationally love two things. They love weather and they love sports, and we're looking to hit a home run with YSN.
And we'll talk a little bit about kind of what you guys have been doing differently the last year. Talk about if I'm correct, YSN is probably about 3-4 years old, give or take. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, we'll be celebrating our fourth birthday, so to speak, in June of this year. Officially, our first broadcast went on in August of 2017, but we're looking forward to making each year continually better and better and pushing the envelope. And 2021 is going to be no different for us.
Well, let's go to the early stages of YSN. Talk about kind of your background first and how you kind of got to the realization or the thought process of YSN, which actually stands for Your Sports Network, if people didn't really know that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a graduate of Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. I was a broadcast communications major there, with a lot of marketing classes, not enough to minor in it, but I was always consumed by marketing and the sales aspect of how the businesses are run. And I always told myself that if I ever had enough money or hit the lottery, that I would create my own television station, so that way the smaller schools would be able to have a voice, because seemingly they all get kind of washed out by the larger schools, as it may be, but naturally that's business. So fast forward, I was a national representative at a magazine company called Military Spouse, where I learned the basics of sales, advertising, marketing, built a brand with my team there, upwards of $10 million a year. We were excited about it, and then I kind of went separate ways with that, and my wife wanted to do something different. We worked together at the time. She wanted to do something different. We started a mattress store in order to kind of fill the void a little bit for that couple of years. But I said, if we're going to do this, I want to roll the dice on something that I've always wanted to do, and get into sports broadcasting and get into the schools like East Palestine, who I'm a graduate of, the Crestviews, Warren JFK, these schools that don't necessarily get a whole lot of attention around here, but do have some successful programs. So we did that, and I paired with one of my good friends, Mr. Brian Scott, who has had 2 decades of experience in the industry from the audio standpoint. And we started basically in a pumpkin patch, in some cases where there's very little cellular service. And we were actually just talking on our phones sometimes, or on video game headsets, to communicate, and we started this website, and it kind of took off with the audio. People were listening while they were at the game, adding an experience to their ticket at a high school football game. And then in basketball season, we tried video, and it worked out well, and we've been kind of pushing the envelope. We've always got something new every season that we try to push out. Video is obviously one of the biggest things that's going right now. And when we started streaming, people kind of wondered what it was. They didn't really understand that the value or power that streaming has in our society today. But obviously, from a standpoint of COVID and people having to be closer together, being further apart, streaming is now the everyday norm here in the United States and around the world.
Well, and it's funny you say that because I think streaming really started probably maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, but really didn't pick up probably until the last 4 or 5.
Yeah, I don't want to say obsessed, but I was really intrigued by the Netflix model. I have been, until lately, I've actually been a Netflix subscriber since its inception. It started with, the DVDs coming to you in the mail. They still do that, but now it's more along the lines of the instant streaming. The instant streaming capabilities that they had early were shoddy at best. They had some really bad movies, but the idea, the concept of it was brilliant, and
It
to
was.
have it at your fingertips whenever you want it, wherever you are, was something that I really, really thought was intriguing. And I thought to myself, man, if we could ever get to the point where we're streaming local sports, even at the t-ball level, that Nana out in upstate New York can watch her grandson or granddaughter here in the valley. I mean, it's the future, and if we can bring the future to you now a little bit, by kind of lassoing in, I think we're in a good spot.
Well, and I think that that shows how technology has changed quickly. And I think one thing that really put everyone, I know at least as when I was the sports information director at the All America Conference, things were changing quickly. We were streaming football games on our websites through the local school districts because
Mm-hmm.
the schools were starting to have their own telecommunications, and so we worked with them to make these games live, and we saw a great audience because hey, I'm at the JFK game, but I need to know what's going on at the Harding game or at the or another game to say, hey, we're in the playoffs, or that was just an example. And I think that really showed like these schools, like there is money, and because as you know, most of these schools, football controls their budgets.
Absolutely, and the thing is, no pun intended. If I'm going to bet on two things, it's going to be sports and it's going to be technology, because those two things evolve very well and adapt very well to the future, right? Because sports is a big business, but technology, as we know, is a huge business. So when you combine those two and you create something in sports technology or AI, as we're continuing to try to do, it's a guarantee. I mean, sports is not going to go anywhere. Sports will be, we might be completely nuked off the earth like the dinosaurs one day, but somebody's still going to be kicking a soccer ball or throwing a baseball around to pass the time.
Or picking a pickup football game in the back.
Exactly, and that's the thing is, and especially now with technology being advanced too, we're looking at 5G. We're looking at basically when you and I were growing up, it was dial up, and you couldn't be on the phone or on the internet at the same time.
Oh,
Now it's
my
I'm
parents
running
hated that.
right. So now I'm literally running a studio, a show right now behind us as I'm talking to you, and I've got three TVs going behind me, and it's all streamed. It's all off the same internet connection. So as the internet continues to be almost as important as the oxygen that we breathe, I'm betting on the internet, and the team around me has really supported that in full bore.
Well, I think you hit a great point is because once the pandemic started, a lot of the, like you talked a little bit earlier about spring sports of 2020, where they shut them down very fast. And
Yeah.
and I think one thing that I felt bad for was they actually, if people don't realize it, or the West Branch girls basketball team in 2020 was literally on the court warming up for a regional final or a state final in Columbus, and they shut them down with about 8 minutes left in before the game started. I mean, how do you feel when you're ready to go and hey, we're done, and then the whole place, the state and the rest of the country just shut down?
Yeah, it's a crushing blow to that program. We had a chance to talk to Walt DeShields about it, what it was like after it happened, and it's not something you ever want to go through. I mean, you put in all the time and effort, and that's your moment. And a lot of people thought West Branch was the real deal. They can probably or should have brought home the state title last year. Same with Cheney. That Cheney was going to go one-on-one with Akron St. V's, and they never got a chance to. So it's one of those scenarios where every senior that graduated last year, you feel for them. in one way or another, whether it's on the floor, whether it's on the diamond, whether it's on the field, whether it's in the classroom, because they never got theirs. There's proms that didn't happen, and that's why you feel bad. But I had a chance to talk to some of these seniors and the resiliency that they've had. This is part of their story now, right? So now it's, we never got ours, so don't take it for granted. So now they're going to go through life kind of embracing every opportunity that they get, which is it really is indicative of our area, Grit City. And, we don't take things for granted anymore. We don't take championships for granted. We had that great decade at YSU where Coach Tressel led us to dominance. And now we're trying to get back to that stage. And it's not easy to climb that ladder. And I tell everybody, the reason that I feel that we've been so successful with YSN isn't because of me, but it's because of what I embody, right? I'm from this area. I'm from East Palestine. And I relate it to an old baseball. Nobody wants to play catch with the old baseball. Everybody wants the pearly whites. But you have to be able to get beat up and go through those failures and learn to get some scars and some nicks and some cuts in order to learn how to succeed, because success is just this fragile glass ball that, if you drop it, you may never see it in the same condition again. So when you have it, you have to embrace it. You have to hold on to it tight and keep it protected, because success is so fragile. And one slip up in the sports world, or if you're in the business, one slip up in the business world can cost you what essentially you've worked your entire life for.
Well, and I think when we talked about everything kind of being closed during the pandemic, is schools went from in-school learning to online learning right away, and actually couldn't provide, at least in the very beginning, that because the internet was not as what it is now.
Yeah, it's very challenging when you're put up against the ropes, and you have to adapt quickly, and because there's a lot of money on the line. People don't realize, and I don't want to come out and just openly say that schools are businesses, but let's face it, schools are businesses, churches are businesses. You have to utilize, your whatever money you have coming in, you have to utilize it to the best of your ability. And when you start seeing the biggest challenge, I think, for schools was when not everybody was on the same page. So some schools wanted to stay open so they could keep their kids in their care, keep their kids to keep coming to school, obviously to keep the money coming in. Because if this school's open and they're going to play sports and this school's not, like I said, sports is going to take a front seat to that, and they're going to say, well, I'm just going to send my kid over here. Open enrollment, recruitment has changed the entire game, and these schools have to be proactive in not only retaining their students, but in some cases going in and recruiting students and student athletes to come into their, to their school in order to stay afloat.
And I can picture a couple schools saying that you recruited this person and you recruited this person, and then next thing you know, you got one school blaming another, and you hate to see that, hey, just enjoy the time you have. And I think that's what really happened once we kind of looked into May and June. What was football season going to look like? Like, were they going to start practicing in late July, 2-a-days, August, 3-a-days, and then start games? And you saw, and I had Dana Balish and Greg Goulas, both very familiar with sports over the last 30 years, and we had a premiere talking about football and this fall sports and what was going to happen. And then we had some athletic directors, John Mang, and some guys talking about what was it going to be like, because the problem is no one knew, and OHSAA wasn't taking the bull by their horn at the time.
No, and I think everybody knew that OHSAA was going to do everything in their power to make football happen. At least get it started. That nobody was sure how long it would go. But I think we had a total of 6 days to prepare here at YSN for our football season. Before Governor DeWine gave the okay, it was a mass scramble. I remember being up here because we were allowed to video for the first time ever in football, because the OHSAA granted that to us through some of their video partners. But I remember being here till about 4 a.m. on that Friday morning, getting things set up with Brian, making sure that we had everything ready to go. And then lo and behold, the first night, I said that was Thursday. Friday, we had there were some teams that played on Thursday. Friday, we had just an unbelievable storm in week 1 that came through that you couldn't have imagined it. You could we lost 4 computers, 6 of our motherboards for our sound systems. It was awful, and on top of that, we had imposed a $9.99 pay-per-view model in order to give back monies to the school because they were losing so much by not having fans available in the stands. So we wanted to say thank you to the school and say, hey, we're in this with you. We want to give you 25% back. So when you anytime you attach money to something and they don't get the quality at home that they necessarily think they deserve, you're going to hear about it. And that first night, I remember coming back and thinking, this is the end of YSN. Like we flubbed up, we tried, not that we were trying to get greedy, we were trying to cover ourselves so that way the announcers were paid and we could give some money back to the school. But we went too far too soon and fell on our face. But it turned around because we realized it was more of the storm and the equipment malfunctions. And quite honestly, that, we talk about technology. These schools aren't necessarily technologically ready for the advancements of streaming with their internet services and what they have to offer at these schools. But we're the ones that are going to carry the burden because we're the final outlet. So, it was really interesting. The schools were challenged to kind of play catch up with online and teaching their kids and education. And we were challenged from a standpoint of how are we going to do this with 6 days to go, get football up because it was a last minute thing when we didn't have to worry about baseball because there was baseball or softball or track and field because it wasn't one. You think we had 6 months to gear up, but we were in limbo for 5 months and 20 some days of that 6 months. So it was crazy, Tony.
And I can only imagine that your plan changed every time the governor's plan changed.
We watched every one of his Wine with DeWines at 2 o'clock.
Well, yeah, wine with DeWine at 2 o'clock every day. I remember it.
We watched with bated breath because, you'd hear so many rumors and so many, and so many people, so many pundits that would say, we're not going to get through 4 weeks of the football season. We're not going to get through this. We're not going to get through that. But I kept my eye on volleyball as kind of the guiding light because I felt like if volleyball would have fallen first, they would have said, okay, no indoor sports, outdoor sports. Because we played at Scene Park last year. We everybody played baseball outside of the OHSAA. So if we were going to see it, we were going to see it fall on the indoors first, and then they would say something or make amendments to the football. But luckily, knock on wood, we got through every week successfully here in all the way through basketball, and now we sit here through halfway through baseball and softball, and it looks like we're pretty successful.
Well, and I know we because it was funny because I actually had Mr. Rugg from the OHSAA on. We did an episode about officials and how as a fellow referee, basketball, fast pitch, softball, volleyball, what that was going to look like because there was a lot of officials backing out or at least putting their season on hold for a year. And we talked a lot, and I think that's what really got – because we talked he's like, the plan's going to come out in the next couple of days. We feel confident. He was really good about opening up like what they were going through and stuff like that. But I think the thing is that there was too many unknowns. Like you said, like if volleyball collapses, everything goes.
Yeah, and I think that's the most difficult challenge for the OHSAA, for everybody, for the governor, because the governor still has to take orders from somebody, right? He gets to make some calls on his own, but he still has to go by the data he brings in, and then it kind of funnels down and trickles down from there. The OHSAA, there's a lot of people that said, well, if the OHSAA doesn't, the governor had them by the neck, and he could have said, we're done here. You're not playing any sports, and there's nothing that the OHSAA can do about that. And that's why it is frustrating, and we do give the OHSAA a little bit of a rub sometimes here at YSN because of, kind of the communication. But I will say this, Tim Street, one of the best communicators there is, and I would put him up against anybody in the country for his communication skills, his spin that he puts on things, and the way that he educates you and tells you why things don't happen. But in that given time, there was so much tight-lipped security around every decision that they were making that media outlets and schools, nobody had answers. And we would literally wait till 2 o'clock to see if Governor DeWine would try to push something, and then you'd wait for the OHSA to respond, and then you'd wait for schools to respond independently, and then finally we just decided every day for our power hour from 3 to 4, we would just recap all of it, and anything we heard, it was all on the table. So if you heard something, you had a rumor, even a whisper, we were going to talk about it. So
there was even a rumor that DJ was going to be the executive director of the OHSAA at one time.
Hard pass. I saw.
I would not want that job.
Not a chance.
But you got to commend them for what they do. I mean, I'll say this: anyone in that position, just with the stress level, they're making the hard decisions, and I think that was anywhere. No matter if you have a business, you needed to do what was best. But I think people wanted sports after the NBA did their thing in a bubble, but people were under the understanding like, how do we do it right and for the safety of our kids in the fall?
I think you nailed it on the head, and I think the first part of that was it was so tough to be a leader during that March, April, May timeframe because there were so many unknowns that, this time last year, I put a video out this time last year, we were up against it because we had to make a decision. We either shut down operations like so many were forced to do, or we forged on. And, there was a lot of risk to what we did. There was obviously from getting the virus to, exposing people and our teams to the virus because we have to be a lot of times on location. But everybody I asked, I said, listen, if you're not comfortable with this, you're not going to get hurt. You don't have to worry about losing your position. You don't have to worry about losing to be part of the YSN team. But we want you to be safe first and foremost. And every single person came in and said, I'm in. I need something to do, so I might as well do this. And you know what? We became stronger because of the virus. And there's a lot of people that my heart goes out to because their doors may not ever open up again. And we felt it certainly here from a financial standpoint, from our sponsors who pay money to be advertising on YSN. And we to the point where we were doing free advertising for them to try to get them business to push, right? And it's just, for us, it's a difficult because you don't want to necessarily get excited about how you grew during a pandemic. But from our standpoint, listen, we didn't start because of the pandemic. We started way before, years before, and we were just a product of growing during a pandemic when people needed us the most, and that's the way we feel. So to be a leader was a very challenging point because I had to look people in the eye and give them what usually I want to be certainties and to speak with confidence. I gave them every bit of confidence that I would push this and we're going to ride this as long as we can, as far as we can. And, if the government steps in or the OHSA steps in and we have to shut down, then we'll answer them then. But we were the pirate boat for a long time, man, just sailing the seas on our own. So I was feeling a lot like Captain Jack Sparrow in Pirates of the Caribbean for a while.
All you need is the one eye and the little everything else that goes with it. What did Wyatt? So, what was some of the challenges? You talked a little bit about what happened in the beginning of fall, but going through football season, basketball season, kind of where we are, what were some of the big challenges and some of the ups and downs? Because I want to kind of give your personal story because I like to hear what happened because we know a lot of businesses that are going under or that are almost at the verge. But you guys, everyone faces challenges, unfortunate, but you guys seem to be kind of at that level where you're kind of coming out of it, which is a good thing.
So you're talking about through the pandemic?
Yes.
Okay, so through the pandemic, basically what I did was I am the worst delegator of all time. Like I'm something I constantly try to work on, something I try and improve on every single day because I've done it by myself for so long. This is the way I expect it done. And I think every leader in some form goes through that. But we're a sports company, first and foremost. We're a sports streaming company. And I tried to embrace the role of being the quarterback, right? So what I did was I said, tell me what you love. I talked to all of the staff that we have here, guys, girls, everybody. And I said, what do you love about what we do? And what would you want to do if you had the chance to? And we had people step up and step in, to which I never thought we would. And it's a testament to the people that we've brought in at YSN. It's a testament to our fans. It's a testament to our schools, because a lot of these schools push people to us and say, hey, if you want to do something like, sports broadcasting or sports writing, try something with YSN. So what the biggest challenge for me, and I hate to talk about it from my personal standpoint, because I don't like to be that guy. I like to shine lights on everybody else, but they stepped up in a way that I can't even describe. I mean, you're talking about content for 6 months when you don't have sports. It's kind of how we came up with the Power Hour. Ron Potesta, who does Running Point every day from 12 to 3, continued to tap dance. We talked about things that we never thought we would talk about. He met me in the park one day, and we did a 40-yard dash time with Ron Potesta, who's 50-some years old, and he said, you know what? It's content, and if it works for you, it works for me. We did 40-yard dash times of our broadcasters, joking around with that stuff. We started.
How'd you do?
I beat the guy that I was up against. I was a 5-something. I know that. So I'm not going to win any races anytime soon in the combine.
And I'd love to see. I'm gonna have to find that video of Ron doing a 40-yard dash. I've known Ron for a very long time, when he was at iHeart and doing the play, and he did some play-by-play when I had a Hope Classic, when I brought in teams from all over the country, from Colorado, Chicago, and they did some stuff for us, and he knows what he's doing. He's been in the business a long time.
Yeah, Ron's a pro. We're so happy to have him. He just entered his second contract with us here at YSN. We celebrated his first anniversary, his show. Anthony Hartwig, who is kind of I don't want to say he's the sidekick, but Anthony's come into his own on that show. He is the girl sports guru in this area. If you're looking for anything girl sports, Anthony has been there, done that, and knows all about it, and he'll write you a story about it. He's come into his own. Anthony, of course, has had adversity in his life. He's in a wheelchair, and sure enough, he jumped out there and he did a 40-yard dash with us in his wheelchair. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's really cool, because it's a team atmosphere, and it took and will continue to take a team atmosphere to continue us to raise the bar for not only the Valley but the country. We were surprised to find out that we have become the number one sports streaming company as far as it comes to the volume that we produce. They were interviewing the NFHS network, and they were talking about 4 games a week, and I thought to myself, man alive, if all I had to worry about
4 games in a night.
Yeah, if we had 4 games in a week, we could think a lot more and do a lot more with that. But when you're in football season and everybody wants their team represented, and we're doing 31 games a night in some cases, that's a lot, and we put ourselves out there and we tried to really come through, and we felt we did a satisfactory performance. But now we set the bar, and now we push that bar. We raise that bar as we look towards 2021 and 2022. So we're excited. I'm blessed beyond measure when it comes to people that become part of our team. Again, we're always looking for people that are passionate about it. Don't care if you ever played sports. Don't care, how you feel about one team or another. As long as you're passionate about a team you represent, we're allowed to be homers. That's one of our things. We're loyal, we're local, and we're live. And, we are passionate about the teams we represent. We're invested, So when they lose, you can hear it in our voice, the tone that our announcers have. It stinks. But on the same token, when we win a state championship, that our team was represented and won a state championship, and it's a call that some of these kids will never forget.
Well, and it's funny you say that. Is we talk about that, hey, you're looking for anyone. Remember, you don't have to run. You don't have to run the 40-yard dash every day. So that
Just once a year. That's all we
yeah,
ask.
once a year for content purposes.
Yeah, we're gonna hook a charity to it at some point, the same way as Rich Eisen does. But and that's part of what we do too. I mean, Brian and I went 3 years without getting paid. It was one of those things where, as much as people love what we do, they should be so thankful of our families at home, because without them saying, hey, my wife is a saint. I will be the first to admit it. And anytime she says no, it's no, it's done, it's over. But she believes in this. She believes in me. She believes in the team that we've brought in, and she believes in the mission. And I think that's what most people love about what we do, is they believe in the mission. We're not here to cut down your kids. You're never going to hear us criticize your kids or your schools. And if you do, that person won't be around very long. And we're a positive impact, positive influence. We try to just raise the level of programs and awareness around these programs, because we feel like at the end of the day that our area is a hotbed for student athletes, for how it's done and how it's done right. We are Grit City for a reason, and we continue to plant that flag everywhere we go.
Well, and we've kind of just finished basketball season, and we're kind of midway through. What were there some big challenges? We know you kind of got through football, and now you're basketball. Do you see YSN really taking it to the next level in the fall? Like, what does the future hold with you guys? Because you've kind of been through the ringer when it comes to football. And I think any business that's been through a pandemic that said, hey, we need to try this, people understand. But then unfortunately, majority of them like, okay, you were been through the pandemic, you need to take it to the next level in the fall. So what's that look like future-wise moving forward? I know you guys are doing a lot of baseball and softball games this year. And now you have a partnership with the Scrappers that starts at the end of May. So that'll be getting going with the new draft system and everything like that. What's it look like future-wise? What's coming down the pipeline that you can kind of give us a little squeaker on? Tell us the little secrets.
I wish I could give you anything, right? I wish I could give you a blueprint for the next 10 years. But like I told you before, every time Brian and I sit back and we draw up a game plan of this is where we want to be in a year, this is where we want to be in 5 years, this is where we want to be in 10 years, we crumple that page up and throw it away because something happens and all of a sudden we're forced to, 16 more teams come to our need, and that's perfect for you because this is the title of the program, Spanning the Need. We don't actively go out and recruit anymore. We don't have to, right? People come to us and say, okay, we understand what you do. How do we get to be a part of this? So when the entire MVAC came to us and said, we want in, how do we get in? How do we get recognized? Because it's great that you're on TV once a year, once in a blue moon. But
if you're lucky.
Yeah, and the reason we do this is exactly this, is we want to have chapters of your story along the way. We want to cover every single one of your games because it tells a story, not just a highlight, not just a snippet. It tells the entire story. So that's why we do what we do. Because it'd be easy to do, one game of McDonald a week and call it a day. But it's different when they've got 4 games in a week and you got to figure out how to get announcers there. And our schools have been so flexible and so kind in helping us and being patient with us because they understand that we're in a situation too that, our announcers were not immune from Corona. And I had it myself in early January because, you go places and you get stuff. When you're that many places, you're susceptible. And obviously they told you want to stay in your house as much as you can, stay quarantined, we went through it. All of our announcers went through it, even if they got a little bit sick from what I think is still, believe it or not, they still have colds around here. If they had a cold, I said, stay home. Don't even worry about it. We'll take care of it. Safety first. But as for the future, I can tell you this, is we will continue to raise the bar. We have great partnerships. One of our partnerships is with 21 WFMJ, which we're constantly working with them and myself and Jack Gerdick having constant conversations about what we can do together to emphasize sports and really underline sports as the key here in the Valley. And they've been so great to us since day one before we were partners, just sitting down and discussing what YSN means and why we're here and why we're doing this and what our true meaning of why is. And he got it. Jack got it from the jump, and we've been supported by Dana and the whole sports team over there, and even the news team has been great. The producers have been unbelievable, and you know we've got great sponsors. I mean, one of our biggest sponsors from the jump has been Baird Brothers and Scott Baird over there, a baseball guy as well as I'm a baseball guy, and he said anything you need, just let me know, because I believe in you. I believe in this, and let's just, you know, we're not necessarily there to sell anything we're doing. We just want the brand awareness, and we want to be part of this. And then it's grown. We've got a great team at iSynergy that maintains our website. They probably want to kill us sometimes because the amount of views that we bring in on the website during football and basketball season, and we crash their servers 3 times during basketball, which none of us thought that we would ever do. But it's a testament to this area. It's a testament to the teams. And of course, we're thankful for it. We're thankful that people turn to us during these times of need and wanting to be entertained and informed by what we have to bring at YSN.
And you know this as much as I do. Over the last, I mean, we've lost the Vindicator. The Vindicator was huge impact because they covered, like, probably 2017, give or take, and they dropped off, which there was a huge void in sports because they covered massive games on Friday Night Football, their blitz. They were all over the place when it came to basketball, and then they subsided, and they really didn't pick up. And so you guys kind of came in and said, hey, we need to pick up the pace.
And that's exactly the conversation that we had. I said, you know, when we found out a little bit earlier that the Vindicator was probably not going to make it because of that relationship that we had with Mr. Brown and of course with Jack in 21. And it just came to hey, we have got to step up. I mean, the Vindicator did so much for so many for so long. I was a fan of it. I mean, if you're from East Palestine and you made the Vindicator, you either did something really wrong or you did something really right. So, you know, I remember that, you know, since I was in high school and I graduated in 03, newspaper has been quote unquote dying. You know, it's you know, everybody says, oh, it's radio's gone. The print's gone. It's all going to be on television and digital and whatever comes next. And, you know, like the Vindicator to me was one of the sad ones to go, you know, and it's unfortunate. And I hate to even say this because, you know, I grew up with print, you know, and journalism and things of that nature. But the Vindicator was the elite of the elite. The best writers, in my humble opinion, in the area worked there. They put their heart and soul into it, and you know, it's just they were an unfortunate cut to a media that has been going for a while, and unfortunately, it was a situation where they did everything they could to stay afloat and to stay relevant, and you know what, they did great work up until the very last Vindicator. I have the very last Vindicator hanging up because I want people to remember again that success is fragile, right? You're not always going to be on top, and it's not always guaranteed to you is tomorrow, and as also an homage to them and how big of a part of what we do every day is what they did when I was growing up. So you know, it's unfortunate, but you know, the show must go on, right? And it's either we sit there with our sitting on our hands and we say, well, there goes the Vindicator. You know, what does the world do now? Or we say, no, we're going to step up and we are going to honor the Vindicator and those who wrote for it, those who edited it, and those who put it out by doing the job that they did. And I don't think we'll ever do justice to the Vindicator from our publication standpoint on ysnlive.com. I don't feel like I'm a very good writer at all. And, you know, we're just giving basically the snippets and the highlights of it. But, you know, from our journalism standpoint, when we do these interviews, similar to what we're doing now, when we interview players and coaches, that's my take on it. That's my kind of my spin on the great journalism that the Vindicator brought to this area for so long is how can I give these kids a platform to talk for 15 minutes about something other than just, did you see, you went 2 for 4 today. How did that feel? One of those things. It's what do you want to do with your life? What do you want to do? What are your expectations for your coaches? What are your expectations for your players? You haven't won a game in 700 days. What motivates you to keep on going? And that's the stuff that I feel like that in journalism you have to ask the tough questions, or it's not journalism. It's just reporting. And I don't want to poo-poo reporting, but at the same time, there's a difference between a journalist and a reporter. A reporter just tells you what happens. It's the same difference between a salesperson and somebody that checks you out at Walmart. A salesperson sells you something. A person at Walmart or any grocery store checks you out. You were going to buy that anyway. You don't get credit for that sale. So that's the way I look at it. And we try to honor the Vindicator and the great writers from around here as much as we possibly can. We have them on our shows. And we try to honor them in different ways, through our broadcast, to let them know kind of a wink and a nod that they're the reason we're here.
Well, and you say that because, there was a lot of great sports reporters from there, from the editor, from Mark Sweetwood in the news department to Mark, oh my gosh, I just lost Mark Sweetwood, and who was the Ed Puckus. Mm-hmm. was the guy, and then you had all the reporters, the Mike McLean's moving around. Then you had the Greg Goulas. It was funny. I remember I was reffing a basketball game, and so as officials, we have to go over and check the scorebook. And at the end of the scores table is Greg Goulas, who I've known for 20 years, is a great mentor of mine, really known in the sports business, knew what he was doing, SID at YSU. Yep. And he's got 8 different colored pens. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I need them for my scores and everything. So I go, okay, I'm going to come with 2 minutes left in the game to look at your chart. So we have a timeout, 2 minutes. I'm like, it's all color-coded. I have no idea what it means.
Yeah, it's great. And Greg is one of the best there is in whatever respect that you want to say. He was a guy that when we had John Bacho's show here, last year during the pandemic, Greg came in, I think, once a week to talk sports. And I've never met somebody that loves sports so much and gives so much back without asking for anything in return. He just loves it. It's on his heart. He loves it. He gives it his whole being to it and never asks for as much as a penny in return. And, he's always been a fan of YSN. And anytime we needed especially in the early going, anytime we needed kind of a foot in the door, Greg was there to get us in. Scene Park, doing some of the district games. Yeah, absolutely. Come on in. We want these to be seen, and we want people to be, experience the greatness that is Scene Park and Mahoning Valley baseball. So, I can't say enough good things about Greg.
Yeah, he's one of the best ones in the Valley, in my opinion. He's a history book when it comes to sports. He could tell you almost like a guy about stats and anything that has to do with sports in here. He's got people he knows all over the country when it comes to sports. He's like, yeah, talk to this guy. I'm like, okay.
Yep. He's a Rolodex, man. Like, if you need someone from somewhere where you've never been or never heard of, you go to Greg Goulas and he will say, oh, yeah, that's Jimmy and he's actually he lives on Indianola. Yeah. He's married to and it's unbelievable. And it's just, he's got that gift. And there's it's funny because not many people have that gift in the world. And I have so many people in the Youngstown area with that recall for people, where they know him from, how they met him. Jim Tressel being the biggest of all of them. Jim has unbelievable recall of you, no matter if it was when you met him when you were 12 years old, or you met him at wherever, at dinner, to honor somebody. He knows exactly who you are, where you're from, and can knock it out. The Figley boys, who everybody in East Palestine knows a Figley, he knew that the Figleys were from East Palestine, nailed it down as soon as he saw them. So, we're, again, Tony.
Great memory.
Yeah, unbelievable recall. We're so blessed here in the Valley with not only leadership but sports and the people that are so passionate in one way or another about what we do, and it's guys like you that highlight them that I'm so thankful for, because hearing their story and you kind of unraveling the ball of yarn that is some of these people is really fun to watch, and you're doing a great job with this. So kudos to you, man.
I appreciate it. I think we talked about, you talked a little bit about how you don't want to just interview someone and say, hey, you were 2 for 4, how did it feel? You want to sit down and have a conversation, because I think that's what we miss a lot of. Let's have a conversation, because in the world you're looking at, hey, I come from okay, I agree to disagree. I respect what you think, but nowadays it's back and forth, and it just gets a little bit more tempered. But I think for me it's just, let's have the conversation. Let's just talk about what we need to talk about, but actually getting through the red tape and really getting the message out. Are there stories better than others? Probably is. Are there things that are more interesting? Yeah. And like you talked about, this Mahoning Valley, northeastern Ohio, is rich in sports. Mm-hmm. From the early days of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, when the city of Youngstown exploded in population, and then the downturn of the steel mills, it really has. I mean, you got the Stoops brothers, the Trestles, the Vornevit, or the Vitches, I mean, you name it in this area. Boom Boom Mancini, Kelly Pavlik. Mm-hmm. I can kind of go on and on. We have, like you said, the grit.
Yeah, and if I can for just a minute, some of the people who showed me what's the difference between reporting and what's the difference between journalism are two of my favorite people in this world. The guys that kind of showed me the ropes. When I was at Westminster, I had the opportunity to do an internship at Channel 33. And at the time, Bob Hannon and Bill Castrovince were the sports. They were the sports department for all intents and purposes. And I got to be under their wing for a year. And then, from there, I was offered a job as a camera guy, which I remember interviewing with Jerry Ricciuti, who at the time, this was before the merger. Jerry took over as news director for that little bit, and Jerry grilled me.
Been around a long time. Jerry's been around with his hat.
And I busted Jerry's chops a lot whenever, I was an intern, in passing. Just genuine good people that were there at 33, and they kind of brought me in and took me in as their own, like I was the kid, right? I got treated a little bit different than other interns for good and for bad, as Bob would tell you. But it's one of those things where I was given opportunity after opportunity to push myself, and expectation just continued to rise. So when Jerry brought me in, I didn't even know how to turn on a camera. I had no clue. And as a matter of fact, when I went down there, and Joe Alicio, you remember Joe, right? From 27, we were covering a state championship baseball game, and I remember setting the camera or the tripod up, putting the camera on the tripod, and just looked like completely befuddled. And Bill Castrovince, was like, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I don't know how to turn this thing on. I don't know how to go. Like, I didn't know how to white balance. I didn't know how to do any of that." And Joe actually kind of taught me the ropes on that. From day one, and then I just started rolling, and it was, they always tell you fake it till you make it until you get caught, and then you're in a state championship game and you don't know how to turn the camera on. You're in big trouble. But after that, it was trial by fire, as it was for a long time, because as a 20-year-old kid, 21-year-old kid, you don't have a whole lot of experience to rely on, and that's why at 21 it was so tough. So very tough, Tony, to understand why I wasn't getting my shot, right? I wasn't getting my shot to be you don't have the stripes. You're just a puppy. You're learning constantly, and as much college as you can ever take in will never amount to the amount of experience that you have in a real-time situation. I don't care what anybody says. So I was very fortunate that they taught me that the art of interviewing. It's more than the numbers. It's more than it's what's your bloodline? What makes you tick? Why do you want to play this game? Why do you want to go to this school? Why do you do all these things? If you ask 9 times out of 10, the kids or the coaches will give you the answer as long as you mean well. And I think that's what there's a time crunch certainly nowadays, because sports is down to like 2 minutes at 6 o'clock and at 11 o'clock, and everything else can be found on a website, where we're at an advantage, a distinct advantage, because we don't have any time to fill. We are just the website right now. So I can cut a 10-minute package. I can make a 35-minute show or a 37-minute show, and nobody's going to say boo to me, because I don't have time constrictions. I don't have time constraints. And we can put together all the sound bites if we want to. And that's why we do what we do. We use this kind of system that you use as well. And we say, go as long or as short as you want. If I don't like what I hear, I'll ask the question in a different way. Or if you don't want to answer it, just say that you're not comfortable. But it's the digital age is not beginning. The digital age is here. It's been here for a while, and people are just waking up to it and saying, wow, where did this come from? I mean, it's been here since 2000. Y2K was here, and I think that's when the change kind of happened. Everybody had to turn their computers off, and when they turned it back on, boom, there you are. AOL is gone, and here we go.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we see is, once the pandemic hit, what was the only thing that you could do? Your phone. That people were on their phones. I think they said 38% more once the pandemic hit. More videos, more. So the content, people were thriving on the content. They wanted it every 10 minutes, every half an hour. Like, they wanted new things, because once something was put up, it's old unless something refers back to it.
Yeah, and the biggest part of that, the learning curve and the challenges that you talk about earlier is it's all in your belief system, because there's a lot of people out there that want to get the information out as quickly as they can. And that's great. That's fantastic if that is your belief. But our belief is to get it right and to make sure that it suits people, right? We don't want to go out there, like, breaking news is fantastic, and everybody's still about breaking news and having it first, and the news stations, that's what they're built on. We're not a news station. I would rather get it right and get it absolutely seamless, to where we're, if, like, let's say someone, we see all these transfers nowadays, in college. I would much rather wait for our turn and get the information directly from the source. So from the player that transferred, or a coach that brought them in, or things of that nature, rather than just throwing it out there, because there's no glory in being wrong, right? Because as we've seen at every different level, if you put it out there and you're wrong, you have egg all over your face, and it's not worth the squeeze to us to get the juice in order to have that, because we've worked so hard to build the credibility and to build the longevity and to build these relationships, that, yes, just like success, if you make one wrong step, it can cost you for every other opportunity, with that coach or that player. So,
kind of like going one step forward and 5 steps back.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Well, DJ, I appreciate you taking time. I mean, this was great, just having a good conversation, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. It's an honor to be on your show, and anytime you need anything from us, all you got to do is holler.
I appreciate it. Now, at the end of each show, I like to have some fun with my guests. You
Okay.
up for a little fun?
Let's go.
Okay, you might want to roll up the sleeves for this one.
All right, you got it.
So, best experience.
Best-
So the answers can be personal or professional. There's no right or wrong answers. So, first one is, what's your best experience in life?
My best experience is twofold. It is meeting the young lady who would eventually become my wife at Westminster. I still pay my student loans only because that was the best thing I got out of Westminster was meeting my wife. And then the second is kind of what we're going through right now. We're foster parents, and our girls kind of were put on our doorstep in short time, and the last 2 years that we've had have been the greatest of my life, both professionally and personally, because of YSN and because of them. But they've taught me patience like I've never known. They've taught me to be able to let my guard down, and again, 2 girls, so you can't always be tough. You're a softie when it comes to girls. So that's my best experience.
Yeah, and I appreciate you being a foster parent. Actually, my sister is adopted from Russia, so my parents adopted when I was probably 13 or 14. She was 4.5, so I commend you for that.
Fingers
What's your
crossed.
best memory?
Oh, best memory. Best
Harder
memory.
questions than the earlier, huh?
Yeah, man, you should have started with these. Best
I
memory.
don't think so. No, I gotta get you eased into the show.
Get me warmed
you can
up.
Talk about anything, then I throw these on you.
My best memory would have to be probably, and this is going to sound weird. It was the one of the darker moments of my life when my father passed away when I was just 23. But the amount of support that not only my community but my friends, my family, my coworkers at the time supported me and my family. It just made me feel as if that we were going to be okay. You know what I mean? And in one of the darkest moments of your life, that's when you turn to your friends. That's when you turn to the people that you love. And my best memory was them being there to pick up the pieces and kind of put Humpty Dumpty back together again after we fell off that wall. Because my dad meant so much to so many, and never got to see me do this. He never got to see his grandchildren. He never got to walk his daughter down the aisle. And just, I think, a month and a half after his 25th wedding anniversary, lost his life. So that to me, that was my best memory in a bad situation, because that just, it meant so much and it was unexpected.
Okay. What's your best accomplishment?
My best accomplishment is again being a father and a husband. There's so much that I love about YSN, but I love being able to go home and believe it or not, even though I live, breathe, and work sports, being able to be a dad and a husband and just kind of goof around and I'm not a whole lot different. You get what you get with me, but it's being able to see the world through their eyes, even my wife's, and them kind of stamping some of the decisions that I make and having my back. So,
well, let me ask you this question. This isn't a question that's on the. I have a couple more, but I wanted to ask: how did you get the name YSN, Your Sports Network? I think I always wanted to ask that question, but we were kind of going in a couple different directions, and I wanted to keep that momentum. And so I had it. I was like, how did you get Your Sports Network? YSN is the name of your sports company.
So it's a weird route that we took, because we wanted one name, and we still might change it someday, when we get big enough. But it was taken, and Brian's last name is Scott. My last name is Yokley. So we went SYN, and I was like, no, I don't like that. Let's try YSN. And it was kind of catchy, but it was the Yokley Scott Network, and I thought, nah, we're kind of full of our own stuff at that point. Then we thought, well, what about the Youngstown Sports Network? And then I thought, it's good, but we're pigeonholing ourselves if we want to go regional or national. So then I thought, we want everything that we do to be yours. And originally, quite honestly, the YSN's original blueprint was to be like YouTube. And people could post their own sports all the time and not necessarily broadcast, but they could stream live onto our website. And then we realized we do that and we don't have any control over anything. So people could put all kinds of stuff on our website.
I can only imagine.
Exactly. So we took control over it, and I said, we want it to be your sports network. And it made sense from our standpoint because, from a marketing angle, like I told you, I'm a fan of marketing, but we wanted that to be the truth. We wanted to be yours because, there was a one that started with a my, and we were like, yeah, and I was part of that. And I thought, you know what? I want it to be yours. Like, I don't want it to be mine. I want it to be yours. So that's how YSN came to be.
Interesting. Okay. Who's your role model?
Oh man. I have so many. So many. Professionally, guys like Gary Vaynerchuk, who, I think he does it for all the right reasons. He's my professional. My personal role model is God, Jesus Christ. I try to live my day in a Christian way every day. I Bob Hannon, Ed Kiernan, a guy named Charles Bell. I have so many. Steve Cross from My Synergy. Like these guys who have been up against it for so much of their life, and I think you just have Jeff Risnar up on your podcast as well, and he's another guy who's been up against it. But really, and this is going to sound bad,
We just had him a while back ago.
Yeah, Jeff's an awesome guy, a role model of mine as well. Greg Greenwood, these people that I continue to meet. Jim Tressel is highly regarded as one of my biggest role models because of how he carries himself, because he's so selfless. He's a great leader of men. He's a great leader of people. But I read the words, the quotes, the books, all that stuff, and I do this about leadership.
Right.
But reality is, man, is like you have to be your own role model sometimes. You have to be able to write your own book and who you want to be. And there's so many people that feel that they're stymied because they're stuck in this bubble of who they are and who they can't be. But I take a little piece out of everybody that I know, everybody that I meet, and I try to create that person, in myself, because I feel like that's doing justice to them. It's creating a person that I have this that I like about this person, this that I like about this person, and then just turn it into the Transformer, right? The Power Ranger at the end of the episode. You just start building on, and you've got something you can fight with. So that's those are ultimately the role models in my life, and I'm so proud to continue to add to that list.
Okay. Last question. If there was one person you'd want to meet, past or present, who would it be and why?
Gosh. Oh, man. I'm not used to being on this side. I'm not used to being on this side.
No, you're not.
You know what? I would be interested in talking with Tiger Woods comes to mind. He's had a journey. They always do the golf thing. Like if you had a foursome in golf and you could bring 3 people with you. Tiger Woods is there. And if not Tiger, Jordan, because Jordan, Jordan's my favorite basketball player of all time. The way that he did it, he was so just cutthroat and still is. If you watch the documentary, the dude just knows how to get it done. So that's probably who I would want to meet and talk to.
DJ, appreciate your time.
It's an honor, man.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I am. If you'd like to see more podcasts, announcements, or interviews, please go to anthonyvspano.com. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. God bless. Good night.